following thoughts, opinions, stories, and expressions are meant for those who will appreciate them. If you don't, we hope you keep an open soul to encounter another here on 34 Questions. Peace. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight's guest is going to be Andrew from Our Last Meal podcast. Please welcome him to the show. How you doing tonight, Andrew?
Doing good, man. It's, still a little warm, trying to cool off a little bit, but I'm not doing too bad.
I feel it, man. I feel it. It's a struggle. Are you more of a cold season or a hot season person? Like, which one would you rather have to deal with,
So definitely rather deal with cold weather, because, you can always put more on. You can only strip down so far before it's public indecency,
Nah, I feel it, man. Go ahead.
Like 100 degrees outside, I'm limited on my options.
No, I hear you. I it was so hot out here. I wore a white tee, which I don't normally do, but it's really my only choice unless I want to show off my guns and wear a jersey or something. But I try to not opt for that unless I really need to,
Yeah, I get it.
I just want to thank you for coming through, man, making time for this interview and being open to share your story. I definitely appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man, I've been excited to do this one.
I know we missed the first chance, and that was my bad. But I'm glad we can make it happen now. For the folks out there who are unfamiliar with the flow of the show, we do some intro questions just to set the tone. After that, we'll jump into a couple icebreakers to sprinkle in a couple games. After that, we're going to move to the Wheel of Fate, where we'll spin the wheel. Whichever number it lands on, that's how the conversation will flow. And then after that, we'll finish it off with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Andrew?
Sounds great, man. I'm excited.
Likewise. So my very first question for you is, how have you been? You've been doing great. You've been doing well. How you been lately, man?
I'm going to be honest. So my go-to whenever someone asks me how I'm doing is like, oh, not too bad. I guess I can't complain, or I could complain, but it wouldn't really do any good. That's I don't know what it is. That's I think the joke I just fall back on, but I'm honestly doing really well. It might be the day that you're catching me on, but I'm trying to be a little more better in general about being appreciative of what I've got,
Mm-hmm.
So the family, I'm thankful I got food on the table. I'm thankful I got, a warm place to sleep. So all things considered, I'm doing really well.
For sure, man. I'm definitely glad to hear that. I hope you're not just telling me that because, oh no, but I believe you. And I'm genuinely happy to hear that you're doing well. Because, life, man, is a bunch of ups and downs. So I'm glad I'm catching you on a part when it's coming up for you. If you don't mind me asking, what makes you feel like you're doing well? What is it about right now that just feels like, I'm in a good spot?
So honestly, it's because I'm fortunate that I've struggled. And so I think having struggled, I can appreciate not struggling right now. So, and I can look at it a couple different ways. I think back on a couple years ago, working and just doing a job I enjoy, but also was a lot of stress. And, I took too personal sometimes, and I don't feel that way today. I do a job I enjoy, but I also feel like I've gotten better at it to the point that I'm confident in what I do. So it's not really a source of stress for me. And I'm really fortunate there, because I know a lot of people work as a stressor. Not many people get to do something that they love. And I'm fortunate enough I get to do something I enjoy. I feel talented at, and it pays the bills. Another thing is, financially, my wife and I, we've talked about this. For several years, we struggled because we tried to keep it really lean, because we had financial goals that we wanted to meet. We wanted to get out of debt. We wanted to, try to put ourselves in a position that we could make sure that our daughter had the stuff she needed, but also had the stuff that she wanted, and that we could put money aside for her. And we're finally in a position where, we've struggled, and we've, pinched pennies, and we've done all that, and we can live fairly comfortably right now. And it's one of those things, perspective-wise, I know not everybody's got that option. So I try to never forget that we are incredible. We've worked hard, but we're also really fortunate that some things are breaking our way. So I try to keep perspective on that.
Hashtag goals, man, for sure. That's definitely some place I'd like to be someday. I'm definitely not there yet. Maybe I'm still in my struggle phase. But why don't you give me some hope, or give me an idea of how long? You told me you were pinching pennies. So from that stage to where you are now, how long was that journey? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna like the answer or not. But
I could say the short answer is we were in that really tight phase for maybe 3 or 4 years. I don't think that's realistic though. I mean, because I grew up poor. I grew up in a single wide trailer, right? So I'm not gonna say I was financially unstable growing up, because I mean we always had food on the table. We had a bed to sleep in. My parents, they worked hard. They met the basics. But I mean, we grew up poor. I mean, so I'm 35 now. So I guess short answer would be a couple of years to kind of figure out the things that me and my wife wanted to do. But the real answer is 30 plus years. So I'm hoping that it doesn't take you that long. But also, anyone that would hear this, I would just hope they know, I mean, it's not an overnight thing. There's a lot of times, like whenever you are struggling, that you want to get to the point where, okay, things have smoothed out a bit and it's comfortable. It takes time, and it's not like one moment where the switch flips and like, okay, everything's comfortable now. It's just one day, you just kind of realize like, oh, we've just progressively gotten better and things have gotten easier. And, let's say if we started at A, we're trying to get to Z, all of a sudden we look up and we're on like R or S, and we've made progress, but we didn't realize that we were making progress along the way.
I got you. It's not until you're able to look back and see how far you've gone, right?
Exactly.
But I hear you, man. I hope it doesn't take 30 years for me either. But no, I feel you. I think, I'm not in a similar sense. I never grew up in a trailer, so that's a new experience for me to hear. If I'm probably gonna ask you a lot of questions about that, but yeah. So, but in my sense, similar, where like my parents worked really hard. We were never really. I don't think I was ever at risk to be like homeless or get to a point where my parents can't provide. Like your parents, they worked hard, made sure everything was good for me. I definitely feel like, I don't know, for you growing up in that kind of situation, where you thought it was normal, or like, oh, everybody kind of lives this way, until later on you kind of realize like, oh no, I had not a special circumstance, but your circumstances were definitely different from maybe people you grew up with. So yeah, did that ever cross your mind as a kid? Was it like, oh, I can definitely tell I'm living a different lifestyle? Or was it like, oh no, I'm just a kid, I'm enjoying my life, I feel like I got everything I need? Yeah, so did that thought ever cross your mind?
Yeah, and I'll clarify too. So we were never at risk of being homeless, thankfully. But definitely growing up, I mean, I realized that we didn't have the same options that other people had. It was something I was aware of. It's funny, my wife and I, we've talked about this, because she grew up in a similar background. She didn't grow up in a trailer, but that same situation of growing up, poor. I mean, the house that we live in now, it's in the neighborhood we live in. It's not the biggest. It's probably one of the smaller ones. It's still nice. It's still comfortable. But this is a house that, when we were kids, we would have both looked at and said, oh man, that's a rich house. That's a rich neighborhood. And it's funny, you don't realize how much of that I think even sticks with you, because when we looked at this house last year, we pulled into the neighborhood, and the first thing that popped into my head, and I didn't vocalize this to her until after we'd already closed, was I saw that neighborhood, then I saw the house. I'm like, oh, this is too nice for me. I can't. Someone like me doesn't live somewhere like here.
Damn, man.
Yeah,
that brings tears to my eyes, man. That's crazy. But yeah, that must have been like. Did you just feel immensely proud of yourself, or you just felt like you didn't deserve it? Like, what was that like?
So, yeah, there's definitely a sense of pride, and it's not just in me; it's in both of us. Because I'm incredibly lucky, that my wife. I mean, it really is a situation of, we are partners, 100%. This is very much a 50-50 situation where we both work hard, we both put everything we have into what we have for our family. But yeah, it's We are very proud of where we are and what we've done. And there are times that it almost feels surreal to think that, okay, all the times that we did struggle, like it did pay off, and we have, I guess, I would say made it, I guess. It feels weird to say it, but something I've dealt with for a long time is this imposter syndrome, because, working with people that, I think, okay, these are people that are smarter than me, that they have a different background than I do. I'm going to be found out at any point now. And that's something we really had to work to try to get through and get over, because it's something we both dealt with. So I wish I could say that goes away. It doesn't go away. It's just you get better at telling that voice to shut up.
I got you. Yeah, no, I feel like I definitely feel that way sometimes, even just, making this podcast, that I'm not really doing it just yet. I'm still trying. I haven't reached that point where the confidence is like completely taken over. I still have a lot of doubts. I think that's anybody trying to really, chase a dream. It's like, when do you feel like you've finally, got to that point where you've accomplished your dream or achieved your dream? So, yeah, imposter syndrome's real. If you out there are feeling it, then I would take your advice, man. You can't really get rid of it, but you gotta just silence it as much as you can. But yeah,
100%. The podcast thing too. I've had that same question to myself. Like, at what point do you stop feeling like this is a silly little hobby that you're kind of embarrassed to tell people about, because somebody's gonna look at you and think like, oh, that's cute. You think you're a podcaster. Like, I was saying about this yesterday. I was like, if I told somebody right now, I was like, I'm a podcaster, I would feel so ridiculous saying that. But I'm like, I have a podcast. I release episodes. I talk to people. I promote that. I mean, I don't know what the point is that I can actually say that and feel confident in that.
That's interesting. You just made me think maybe it's the point where people refer to you as a podcaster, like where you don't have to say it anymore, and people are just like, oh, that's Andrew the podcaster. It's not like I'm the podcast. At least in my mind, that's what I'm thinking, is that maybe I'll start feeling better is when people start, acknowledging me as that, instead of just, oh, like, I think people reference my day job more than this podcast, it's like, yeah. But I'm like, wait, it means just as much to me doing the podcast as it does my day job. But yeah, damn, and I guess that's me leaning on validation from others,
Man, I get it though, because there's something. It's almost like a drug. I mean, it just feels so good whenever somebody tells you like, oh, that thing you did was, you did a really good job on something. The thing for me, whenever somebody tells me like, hey, you helped me out a ton, or you did something nice for me, you made my day a little bit easier. It doesn't matter how old I get. It doesn't matter how long I've been at my job. It always feels good to know that, okay, I got praise from somebody, regardless of who they are. There's just something very validating about it.
For sure. I got a couple more questions about this, but we'll move on to the second question before we get in too deep. All right. My second question for you is, what would you like the audience to know about you?
I think the obvious answer is, I do have a podcast, but I'm sure I'll promote that later. So the podcast is about grief and loss and food. I love food. I don't love grief and loss so much, but it's something I've been thinking about more the last year, something I've been dealing with. I lost my grandfather last year to cancer, and I've lost family members before, so but it's been a long time since I'd actually lost anybody. So it was almost like a fresh feeling. So there was this whole new wave of grief and loss that I had to try to process, and the podcast has been a way for me to do that. Taking a completely left turn, because I don't want to bum anybody out too much. I think I'm a goofy person. I think I'm a funny person. I would hope that if somebody were to describe me, that would be one of the first things that they would tell you is that, he doesn't take himself or anything too serious. He's always willing to joke around, but he's also, tries to make people laugh and make people feel good about themselves.
For sure. You think you've always been a goofy person, or was that something you kind of grew into?
A little bit of both. I think it came as a defense mechanism when I was a kid. I was bullied when I was younger, and I think everybody's been bullied. I think it's one of the things that's always it's relative, right? Like, I can't say that I had it any worse than anybody else, or that it did more to me than it did anybody else. I don't think I can make that statement because I've only got my own perspective. But I've always thought that that sense of humor and that kind of goofiness was a defense mechanism, because if you can pick on me, but I can make a joke at my own expense and it's funnier, I've taken that power from you. So that's something even now. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I still default to self-deprecating humor. And I think some people, and for me, I make a joke at my own expense, and I don't say it now to belittle myself, but it's just I want to laugh at myself. I don't take myself too serious, but I think some people that does throw them off a bit because they're not used to somebody who does laugh at themselves, or maybe some people aren't as comfortable laughing at themselves. I think it's something that more people could benefit from, though, is being willing to not take yourself too serious and have a laugh at your own expense.
Feel that, man. I mean, I consider myself in a similar vein. I definitely default to self-deprecating jokes as well, just to show that to other people that I have a sense of humor, or I don't take things seriously. I try to be careful too, though. Like, I don't know if it's like my innermost thoughts or subconscious thoughts about myself that I'm putting out there. Like, so it's very interesting. Like, I know I have a coworker where we will sarcastically just like rib each other, just kind of like make jokes, because we were both fat kids growing up. So right now, like, when we talk about going on a diet, we just keep going back and forth, like, oh, you're not gonna do it, or like here's, like, he'll give me some chicken or something and be like, oh, it's like, I know you're gonna want this. Just stuff like that, and I'm like, damn it, and I end up eating it anyway, because I'm like not trying to take myself too seriously. But yeah, so as far as self-deprecation goes, it's interesting, because you're right, I don't see everybody doing it, but the people that I do see it, for some reason, I don't know, I feel like I vibe with them. I have some kind of energy with them, because we are open to just making fun of ourselves, which I think is a great way to, like, entertain people, or even just like show that, like, in a sense where it's like first impressions and stuff, at least for me, and I'm sure like people like ourselves, it's a good sign. But on the flip side, I think there's a lot of people who are turned off by it too. I'm like, I don't know if you ever come across that.
Oh, definitely. I think you mentioned the self-deprecating humor you have too. I feel like it's easy to kind of get inside your own head sometimes. So I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've definitely experienced it, where you meet somebody new, you make a joke at your own expense, and they're thrown off by it, and it's one of those things. I mean, it almost feels like you have to work double time to try to, like, okay, let me try to make sure you understand I'm not crazy, or I'm not I'm not like somebody who's constantly just ragging on myself. It's just I don't mind laughing at myself a bit. So you do have to kind of be mindful of that, because some people, if it's like you said, if they are the same way, they'll get it right away, they'll click with you. Some people, though, it's immediately off-putting, and I think it's just learning to read the room a bit and kind of understand, like, not everybody's gonna like that, not everybody's gonna be cool with that, so you do have to be mindful.
For sure, man, for sure. Speaking of being mindful, my next question for you is, how would you like to be honored? If there was a way that I could express the energy you possess, what kind of act could I do for you?
This makes me think of I actually had a conversation a couple weeks ago with somebody that used to work for me, and she reminded me of something that I'd honestly forgotten about. Whenever she worked for me several years ago, her father went into hospice, and she'd only worked for me for a couple weeks. I'd just become her manager. And she reminded me that every day that he was in hospice, that she was with him, I would call her just to check in with her, and just to see how she was doing, seeing if she needed anything. And when he passed, I sent flowers to the funeral from our entire team. And to me, it was just something, it just seemed like the right thing to do, just to check in with this person. She's a manager now, same company, different, group. And she told me just out of nowhere, because we were just catching up. She just reached out to me randomly. We just decided we were going to catch up, and she told me that meant a lot to her at the time. And she actually had an employee on her team go through something similar, and she remembered what I did for her, so she made sure to do the same thing for that person. She reached out to them constantly just to check on them, see how they were doing. She made sure that she sent flowers to them, and it brought a tear to my eye just to think that I'd had some kind of impact on her, and that an act of kindness that I extended to her was something that she could then extend to somebody else. And I'm hopeful that what she did for that person, they can do for someone else. So if you were going to honor me, I would honestly say if there's ever been a thing that I've done for you that's put a smile on your face, that's in any way helped you or made you feel better or just better about yourself, send that on to somebody else. And it not even an oh, Andrew did this for me, but just the idea of just taking kindness, because there's not enough kindness in the world. There's a lot of harshness. There's a lot of meanness. If there's any level of kindness that I've given somebody, if they would just take that and extend that to someone else, there'd be no better way to honor me.
For sure, man. Now we know. Yeah, kindness. Like, I don't know if I'm just becoming more cynical in my old age, or my middle age. But yeah, man. I mean, the concept of good and evil, right, is something I've been trying to get out of my mind, just because I think I'm realizing that isn't really what it is. People are good sometimes, people are bad sometimes. It really depends on the circumstances. But as far as saying that, like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. My bad, audience. But hopefully it comes back to me. Let's move on to my last question of the warm up. On a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
So I thought about this because I knew that this was a question you asked. Honestly, if you'd asked me when I was younger, I would have probably said like a 9 or a 10. I probably would have dug my heels in and said, I know who I am. The older I get, the more I realize, like, I am a lot more confident in who I am as a person and what I believe in and what I think is important. But I also realize I still got a lot of room for growth. I'd say like a 6 or a 7. Mm-hmm. I think I've got a good foundation, but as I'm sitting here, I'm hoping I've at least got another 40, 50, 60 years. I'm hoping. And I really hope that I hope I'm not the same person in 5 years that I am today, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. I hope I manage to still surprise myself. So it's a very hopeful 6 or 7.
I feel you, man. I feel you. I'm usually at a 5 most of the time. I think I'm still at a 5 ever since even I started this podcast, because I don't know. I feel like I got so much more to do, so much more to experience that I'm not even close to it, Yeah. But for you, what would you say, when was the last time you surprised yourself? Just to be like, oh, I didn't know I had that in me,
It may even be the podcast, honestly, because it was something I wanted to do for a long time. And I finally I honestly remember when I finally decided, like, I bought the domain, earlier this year, and I had the idea for it, and I created a Google Doc. I'm like, okay, well, I've got a Google Doc, so I mean, that's half the work right there. But like, what really surprised me was one night I was laying in bed, my wife was asleep. It's like 1 a.m. I'm having trouble sleeping, and I just said, the hell with it. I'm gonna order a microphone right now. I'm gonna go ahead and put the credit card on the website so I can go and host it. And I'm like, let me get at least a little bit of skin in the game, and it's not much. It's like $50-$60 to get a couple things to start up. But just the idea, like, okay, I made the step to do it, and then writing and recording my pilot episode, which is just about me, and then scheduling that first interview with somebody, and then scheduling that next one. The podcast has really been like the most recent thing for me to surprise myself.
For sure, man, for sure. And I think you're killing it, man. I know it's still early in the game, but I mean, for the folks out there who don't know, I was a guest on his podcast recently as well. You super challenged me to talk about stuff that I don't really talk about, even on my podcast. But yours is super specific, right? Could you give us, if you're gonna, in a nutshell, kind of let the folks out there know what your podcast is about, how would you describe it? Or should I describe it? Describe my experience.
So, you know what? I would love to describe what my vision is, but you being in the position of having been a guest on there, I would love to know how you think of it. Because to me, it's a space that we can honor people, right? The idea is, it's called Our Last Meal, and it's about the idea of grief and loss and food. So I firmly believe that food is a great equalizer. It is a great bringer together of people, and we have connections to people through food. But we also lose people. Sometimes it's, a loved one. Sometimes it's a relationship. I just recently did an interview with somebody. I haven't released this yet, but they felt like they lost a sense of themselves. And we can tie a lot of these things to food. I think about people I've lost in my life, like family members that have died, relationships that have ended, and I think about meals I shared with those people. And I want to offer people a space to kind of process their grief, talk through it, talk about someone in a way that they maybe haven't talked about or wouldn't normally talk about, and talk about, how did food tie into that? But it is really a space, to honor somebody you care about or cared about.
For sure. And I think 100%, that's exactly what I took the opportunity to do, is to kind of talk about, for the folks out there who don't know, I had a sister who had passed away before I was born. All my family and friends, I'm sure you've heard me mention her, but not really talk about it. But here comes Andrew offering me the space and time to just, speak my mind on it, which, I want to apologize to the folks I never really opened up to, who have been there for me in the past. But I don't know, it's something different. Like, we just met, and I don't know why I'm just so more prone to be open to people that I meet on a whim instead of like the people I've known for a long time. Maybe I'm super conscious of how people can be judgmental, and if I have a close relationship or they're around near me, I'm very like, I don't want their impression of me to change for them, especially if I'm going to be with them a lot. So for you, Andrew, we met on doing our podcasting thing, and you were pretty welcoming, and you were warm enough for me to just be like, I'm gonna tell this guy how I really feel at least one time in my life, and you helped me record it, so that's something that I think is special to me, because a lot of the times when I have conversations with people, and I think you got this vibe from me, I like having good conversations, like, digging deeper. I tell them all the time, we should record this, right? And I don't know if that's what I was waiting for, is to have someone be willing and open to be like, I'm gonna record this for you, man, because I think it's important to you, right? And it is important to me. So if you've never heard how I felt about my sister, I highly suggest you guys check out Our Last Meal podcast. And today's June 22nd. It's when my episode released, so go ahead and check that out now. But yeah, man, so I was able to honor her. I felt bad that I couldn't really speak about food, though. Like, I know that's a big part of your podcast too, and I was just like, damn, like, we didn't really get to share a meal, but we did share a lot of other things, and we did have that connection. Shout out Jollibee. But yeah, so I just want to thank you again for allowing me to do that. And for any folks looking to do that, please reach out to Andrew. But yeah, man.
Appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on and sharing.
For sure. All right, folks, we're going to move on to the icebreakers. But before we do that, if you are enjoying the pod so far, please like if you might, share if you care, subscribe for a vibe you didn't know was there. But yeah, that's my plug. Trying to get better on the delivery, but yeah, appreciate it. Heading on to the icebreakers. All right, boss, here we are. I don't know if you're familiar with what's coming up, but the first icebreaker is called Point of View. I'm going to give you a statement, and you let me know what your thoughts are on that statement.
All right.
This first one is, overthinking is a bad thing. True or false? Agree, disagree?
I need to think about that a little bit.
Is that on purpose?
Yep.
I got you.
Overthinking is a good thing, but agree or disagree. I think overthinking is, I feel like it's an evolutionary thing. You overthink something You know, there had to have been an ancestor who's like, I need to overthink this because this looks like this could be a trap. Let me protect myself before I get involved. I think where it can turn into a problem though is like, you know, if you get into anxiety. So damn, that's a hard one. You know, I mean, because if I overthought something, I never would have released a podcast. I never would have started that. You know, and even in just a few episodes, I gotta say it's been incredibly rewarding because I mean, to me, it's a creative spark. It's a chance to get to be creative and think about something that I am genuinely passionate about. It's not just a way for me to make money. The other side of that too is, I mean, just getting to connect with people. That's something that means a lot to me personally. If I'd ever thought it, I wouldn't have done that. You know, so I'm going to say that overthinking, I don't think it's a good thing. It serves a purpose, but I don't think it's inherently good or best.
I feel attacked, bro. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an overthinker myself, but I mean, I like to hear people's perspectives. And yeah, I mean, as an overthinker, I definitely think there's been a lot of negative effects in my life, like whether it's been too much hesitation or, you know, fight, flight, or freeze. I am a freezer, like without a doubt. Trying to work on it, trying to get better. But yeah, it's definitely been something that I think has helped me in some ways, like you said, as far as, you know, survival or instincts and trying to figure out what the best move is. There's been a lot of good that's come out of that, but I think as much good there has been, there's an equal amount of like the negative effect on me. It's a balance. And I think for most folks, I think a lot of thinking out here, that we're like, it's a balance. I think there's moments where we are overthinkers and moments when we don't overthink or like just react and take action. But yeah, for me, it's always been more overthinking, and I think it's definitely had an effect on my relationships with friends. Like I'm the person who doesn't text back right away. I'm sorry, that's just me, because I'll look at it and be like, I can do it later, and then when I finally like remember it, I'll be like, oh, I can do it again later. And then at a certain point it gets too late and I'm just like, is it worth even sending anything at this point? And I get stuck, and it seems like to the other person that I'm just ignoring them. So I hope, you know, my family and friends understand me well enough to be like, he doesn't mean anything ill, it's just, you know, the way I am, which is unfair now that I think about it more.
But I'll say this though, like, I don't think you should, you know, and this isn't towards you, I think this is more towards just anybody in general. I don't think that we should be trying to attribute things to malice that, you know, could have another explanation. And maybe this is, you know, the overthinking. If you have that situation where you text somebody and like it's been a week, you know, I think it's easy to say like, oh, they don't care, or, you know, what's up with them. But I think it is a bad thing to just go straight to think like, oh, they're being malicious, or they're being, you know, they don't care. You know, because I think we've all been there. You know, I don't think there's anybody that's that never overthinks. And if they do, I can't imagine somebody that just runs purely on instinct and just like whatever pops into the head is what I'm going with.
I feel you. I mean, you know, in my mind, I would want to be an entertainer and maybe an actor. When I took an acting class, they always said, be present, be in the moment. And and that's something that was super challenging for me, you know, because I would always think about how should I act and react to certain things in the scene. But no, I mean, as far as, you know, taking it as malicious, like, I don't think people do that, but I definitely feel like they feel like I don't care sometimes. And that's what I wish they wouldn't feel. Yeah. Cool. I appreciate your thoughts on overthinking. I'll give you one more statement and see how you feel about this one, which is, blood is thicker than water.
Hard disagree. I didn't choose any of my family, and I've got family members who, if I had a choice, I'm like, I wouldn't have picked them. You know, so if I have an aunt or an uncle who is like a racist, I've let me rephrase that. It's not an if I did. I have them. I've had them. I've called them out on that. I'm not going to change their mind. I've got friends though that I did pick. People that are good, passionate people. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, you can judge a man by the company he keeps.
Mm-hmm.
I think about this sometimes. I think about my 3 closest male friends. These guys are like brothers to me. And I look at the 3 of them and I'm like, honest, decent, hardworking, kind, compassionate. If that's the company I keep, then I must be okay. I must be doing something right. And I wish no ill will on anyone in my family. But there's certain family members that if I had to choose somebody to say like, okay, this is family, I've got friends who I'm gonna pick first. That doesn't mean I don't love family, but this idea of blood is thicker than water. I think this is how you get people that, well, we need to protect so and so. We know that they did a horrible thing, but they're family. That's toxic. I think you do owe it to a family to a certain level or a certain degree to try to correct them or try to educate them whenever they do something that's ignorant or maybe even malicious. But whenever they do something, if they do something that's just vile or evil, I hate this idea of like, well, they're family, so we have to protect them.
I got you. And yeah, something I learned yesterday, actually, when I gave the statement to another guest, they corrected me because the full statement, this is just half the story. The full statement is the covenant blood is thicker than the water in the womb, which is the opposite of how it's delivered in the shorter version. So it's actually stating that, yeah, you choose the people that you feel like you're closest with versus, how we're connected through our DNA and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know if you knew that, but that was something new to me.
No, I didn't know that.
If you ever hear this in conversation in the future, you can definitely, drop some knowledge on them. But yeah.
So they do that with old sayings like, you've heard the one, what is it? Boys will be boys.
Yeah, what's the full one of that? What's the full?
Right. So like it's used to excuse bad behavior. Like especially nowadays, it feels like it's used to excuse like heinous things. But the full saying that I've heard is it's boys will be boys until they are men. So at a certain point, you don't get to just say, well, he's just being a boy. He's just immature. At a certain point, there is this idea that you have to mature a bit. You have to know right from wrong.
For sure. Yo, that's crazy. I'm definitely gonna use that in the future. Now I think one of my future statements is gonna be kids will be kids, and see how people feel about that.
Google that first though to make sure I didn't make that up. Well, I do want to confirm. Fact check me, please.
Okay, I'll check it out. But it makes sense to me, man. So it must be true. All right, we're gonna move on to the next icebreaker, which is word for word. I'm basically word association. I'm gonna throw a word to you, and you let me know what comes to mind. And you're gonna have 34 seconds to do as many as you can. The record right now is 12, so no pressure, but see if you can get there.
Let's see if the competitive nature takes over.
For sure. Here we go, man. Your first word in 3, 2, 1. Happiness.
Joy.
Family.
My daughter.
Friends.
Rose.
God.
Unsure.
Money.
Necessary.
Food.
Satisfying.
Art.
Beautiful.
Music.
Passion.
Dance. What would you say for dance? That was number 9.
Awkward.
I'm with you, man. Let's say same for me.
I got no moves.
Do you have a go-to move? Like there's not one that, even if it's just like a nod, like
So the only dancing I do is at home, and this is, again, going back to the silly thing. So if I'm dancing, it's to make my wife cringe and my daughter laugh. So my go-to is the floss.
Oh, I got you. Hey, man,
Yeah.
if you could pull that off, then that's not something I can do. So,
I mean, I can do it. I wouldn't say I was pulling it off though. There's a difference between being able to do something and being able to pull something off.
I feel it, man. My girl, she owns a dance studio, and she's always trying to get me to dance. And I always feel bad because I don't have the same skills that she does. So I always default to just be funny. Like if you want me to dance, I'm gonna dance funny. So like, I hope you don't have to ask me to dance again. But you know,
I'll dance, but you won't enjoy it.
yeah, in a sense. But you know, I'll still just do the slow dance and do the couples dance. But like, it's one of those things where like, you know, if I'm really not willing to dance, then I'll probably do something kind of crazy just so she'll be like, stop it. Like, I get it now. Like, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, all hips.
Yeah, for sure. But all right. Well, actually, you know, I do want to ask one answer that you had. I will ask you why, because I'm interested. God, unsure. Like,
Yeah, I knew, when you said you had one question to follow up, I knew that was going to be the one. So it's because I'm agnostic, I guess, on a good day. I say unsure, like I grew up Baptist, which is not surprising. I'm from North Carolina, so that shouldn't be surprising to anyone that I grew up Baptist. I got away from the church when I got older though, and a lot of that was due to hypocrisy, and I saw it used as validation for a lot of hate. You know, I've heard people, you know, I go back to like family and then friends and just strangers. I've heard a lot of people try to use the Bible as justification for things like why, like, oh, interracial relationships are wrong. I've heard that. That's one I've heard a lot here. And when I was younger, that didn't sit well with me because it didn't make any rational sense. As I've gotten older, I met, fell in love with, and married a Hispanic woman who. So I am not Hispanic. I am white. So this is an interracial relationship. And if somebody were to tell me that like this is like, morally wrong, I couldn't. That doesn't jive with me. That's one reason. Another reason, you know, this is the one that I think a lot of people go to whenever they question is like, you know, why is there so much bad in the world if there is a loving God? And the thing, I don't know. At the same time, I can't. I don't really deal with a whole lot of absolutes. There are some things I think are, you know, are right, just right and wrong or absolute, but that's one I don't know. People who are like so sure on either side of it, I don't understand it. So I'm unsure. I know some people, for them it's beneficial and it helps them, and if that belief does help somebody, then I think there's nothing wrong with that. You know, what I don't like is whenever people use it to justify, you know, just hatred and anger and just being toxic. And I feel like I've seen a lot more of that, especially in the last several years, than I have the positive.
I got you. And yeah, don't worry, man. I grew up Catholic. I'm not gonna say that, you know, I'm agnostic. Agnostic is the one that's like, there's something there, but you're just not like ready to say that, or is that the other one?
So that was more just like unsure. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. Like I can't call myself an atheist.
There you go. I was getting those mixed up, but yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
No, for me, man, like I think, you know, my experience in being in a part of religion, I went to Catholic school too, so it was like drilled in me for a long time. But for me, it's a lot bigger than what they're telling us, you know, or like, you know, people seem to tend to take these ideals that fit their I mean, we all do it, but religion in particular is one that like people will take the ideals to fit their worldview, and they can't be wrong, you know, and that's, we gotta be wrong. Like, I think we're all wrong, really, because we really don't know what's out there and what's bigger than us. Like, I think I've watched a lot of videos that whatever's out there is just way too complicated for our puny human minds to even grasp, you know, like, so we shouldn't really judge it or try to understand it just now, because it might be just something for the future to understand, or for us to understand in the next phase in our lives. I can't say heaven or hell, but yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, the reason why I also picked it out was that I'm very curious about people's spirituality and how they view, the other things that we can't see, how it affects us. But thank you for sharing, man. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. When it comes to spirituality and religion, I just default to it. I try to be a good person, and all I can do is hope that's enough.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think it is, man. I think, we talked about kindness earlier being rare or not. There's more, I guess, bad energy than there is good energy. So I think being able to put it out there is the right decision. And that's the thing. Like, I hate to feel like that I've been brainwashed or influenced in a sense of like the other things have told me that you can't. I feel like to be successful, to be rich, to be up there, a lot of people have said you can't be the nice person, you can't be the good guy. Like, you're gonna have to do some shady things, or you're gonna have to make moves that are kind of selfish for you to get to that point. And I'm super stubborn about it. I'm like, I don't think that's the only way. And but I hope, I hope that it doesn't get to a point where like, damn, everybody else is right. Like, I have to compromise, that energy, or like, the vibe that I want to give, just so I can reach that next step. I hope I never get to that point, man. Like, I don't know if you ever felt that way in your experience, that you've seen some good people do some bad things just so they can, reap the benefits. But yeah,
I've definitely seen that, but I'm just in that same boat with you. I want to be successful in life, and my personal life, my professional life, my like this, what we're doing now. I got to be able to look in the mirror, though. I have to be able to be happy with who I am as a person, and it's not all about money and success. If I made $1 million, but I had to screw over people to do it, or if I had to hurt someone else to do it, I don't know how you come to terms with that.
I feel you, man. I mean, it makes me think that the people who are comfortable doing that have probably done it so many times that it's not even something they think about anymore. I think the people who've been trying to be good their whole lives, or be a good person, it affects us more. It just makes us more aware and makes us hesitant to do anything that could hurt someone else for our gain. But I hear you, man. So we have about 13 minutes left in the podcast, man. I think we got time for one spin on the wheel. I just want to thank you again for stopping by, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation as I am.
I'm having a great time.
Show, man. Here we go. Here comes the wheel. Give it a quick spin. And as a reminder to you, if there's any question that's too deep or too personal, you don't want to talk about it, feel free to pass. All right, man?
All right.
So here we go. Number 29, right? Yep, 29. Can you say you've lived a full life?
Yeah. I hope not. I hope not. I've done some things I'm really proud of. Not even just like work. I mean, like, I think about, I've got a kid who is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Kind, smart, funny, goofy, just amazing. And I've tried to do everything I can to set her up for success later, but she's still got a lot to learn from me, I think. I hope. So I hope not. I hope that I've got a lot still left to do, because I need to teach her more. I need to see her grow up, and I need to see her make mistakes, and I need to see her succeed, and hopefully have a family. And if it ended right now, there would be things I'd be really happy about, but there'd also be a lot, I think, still left on the table. Because I don't feel like I've pushed myself, and not that I haven't tried, I don't feel like I've pushed myself and gotten out of myself what I want to do yet. So I think I still have more to do.
sure, man. For sure. I definitely feel it. And keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Ain't no stopping at this point, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, this one's interesting. I feel like maybe you've been the first person to kind of say that, you know, just to be super aware of like, nah, man, I got so much more to do versus, you know, someone, I mean, for myself, maybe it's because I don't have kids, so I don't feel that same way. When I reflect on this question myself, I kind of think about everything I've tried to do, everything, you know, I've been going for. I'm leaning towards a yeah, like, you know, for somebody who's I don't think I've done a lot, but I've done enough to feel like, you know, when I think of a full life, I'm thinking that I was able to do or give out the energy that I wanted to do as much as I wanted to. And I think that's what makes me feel comfortable to say yes. But I also think that's jinxing me, because if the universe hears me, they're like, oh, you're done? All right, let's get you out of there. So I'm not done, universe. I'm not done. But yeah, I feel you though, man.
Yeah, I think kids are a game changer though, because I'm like, there's, like I said, I think there's still more she needs out of me, you know. So that's you know, at the beginning of this, you know, you asked me how I was doing today. Even on a bad day, I can't be doing too bad, because at the end of the day, I mean, I got somebody who wholly depends on me and who needs me, and who I get to teach and I get to watch grow, and I just get to have all these moments with. So even on the shittiest of days, I can't be doing too bad.
You got her, you know.
Exactly.
Oh man, I think it is a game changer. Someone that I haven't felt yet. I think I try to get that energy or that same kind of mentality for myself working with kids, you know, working with high school youth. So yeah, it's probably creeping up on me. I think it's a natural thing for us to feel like, oh man, you know, like I want to see someone that is a part of me, you know, become its own person, and be there and guide them and just see that growth. I'm sure it's amazing, man. I know for a lot of my friends who are recent parents, you know, there's times when they say it's the greatest gift, and there's times that tell me it's a trap, you know, like it goes either way. But I definitely get it, and you know, when I get there, I wonder how I'm gonna feel about it, you know. So
it's overwhelming sometimes, but it's awesome. I wouldn't trade it.
For sure. I don't think anyone would, man. I don't think anyone would. It's like it's just crazy to think, man. Like we enjoy meeting people, right, and talking to people. So for me to think like, damn, you know, we talked about this on your podcast, but meeting a kid, becoming a teen, becoming an adult that is part of you, it's like, what the fuck? Like, sorry, I end up cussing, but yeah, I'm sure it's mind blowing.
You know, that's the thing. You're right. I mean, I could do this podcast for another 20 years. I could talk to a different person every week, every 2 weeks. At the end of the day, I've already met the coolest person I'm ever gonna meet.
Damn.
And the thing is, like, I've known her since the day she was born, but like, I've met the coolest person I'm ever gonna meet. You know, everybody else is playing for second. You know, well, technically third, because my wife is pretty awesome too. I mean,
I got you.
You know, I thought I'm lucky. I'm a very lucky man.
For sure, man. For sure. All right, we made it to the closeout questions, but before we do that, we're gonna jump into the 34th mantra, where I'm gonna ask you to fill in the phrase I am, I can, I will. So I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll switch you over to that frame.
Let's do that. I've been thinking about this the whole time we've been talking.
Awesome, man. Here we go. Go for it.
All right. So if I'm thinking about this, I am, and I just said this, I'm fortunate. I am incredibly fortunate, and I'm incredibly lucky, and I'm thankful to be here. I can talk to other people and listen to them, and allow them to be heard, and allow them to share. Everybody's got a story. So I can listen to people and let them be heard. And I will try to put some positivity out in the world. I don't know how much, I don't know how long, I don't know how impactful, but I will try to put positivity out there.
Sure, man, for sure. I appreciate you participating in that exercise, and if you ever need a reminder, now you have that little soundbite of yourself telling you exactly what you're capable of, and maybe you could use it as a soundbite for your podcast one day, if you ever want to reflect on it. But yeah, thank you again, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, so we have gone to the closeout questions. Just 3 more, man. 3 more. Bear with me.
Right.
So this one is gonna be from my previous guest, and I'm gonna tell you, man, this one's a doozy. Shout out to Kanisha. She gave a pretty hard question, and if you see the episode previously, my facial reaction says it all. But her question for you is, what is your most painful relationship, and what makes it painful? I know, right? I'm like, ooh.
Damn.
Yeah, and you don't have to say names. You could speak in generalities. No need to call anything out.
So I won't call out names. I will speak in generalities, but it's with a very important person in my life. An older person. And there's been a lot of hurt and pain over the last couple of years because it's become apparent just how different we are and how we just don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And the worst part about being very different and not seeing eye to eye on so many things is that we're also very similar in that we both dig our heels in. And we're both, when we're right.
I feel it.
I will say this though, we're working on it.
That's good.
It's I've kind of come to peace with some things, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that especially in the last year, thinking about loss and grief more, I don't want to have a regret that I didn't make an effort, or that I just let something go and just said to hell with it. So it's not easy, but I'm trying, and they seem to be too. So
I mean, props to you, man, and props to the person that's also working on it too. I think it's hard for us to admit that we're wrong, and try to reconcile bad experiences, maybe a lot of words that hurt and shouldn't have been said. So I just want to make sure that I totally respect that you're trying to do that and make it happen, because especially when it comes to people who are close to you, or was close to you, or have been a part of your life for a long time. It's like, I don't know if you ever, there's this graduation speech from Baz Luhrmann. I don't know if you ever heard about it or seen it, but one of the pieces of advice he says is, as you get older, make sure to keep the people who knew you when you were a kid around, because I think that's the only time you're gonna need to remember who you were at some point, and those are the only people that can tell you that, and I don't mean this is specific to your case and to this person, but in general, keep the people who knew you when you were young, because one day you're gonna have to remember what you were like when you were young. Sorry, man, I'm getting choked up just talking about it, but yeah.
No, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, man. Now you can pass it on, this hard question, to a next person. My second to last question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions? You could go easy or hard, but since you got a hard one, you could give the next person a hard time too.
I don't want to go too hard, but I think what would be interesting, if you could talk to your 12-year-old self, what would you say to them?
If you could talk to your 12-year-old self, sorry, I'm just writing it down.
Oh no, you're good.
12-year-old self, what would you tell them?
What would you say to them? What would you want to talk to them about?
You want to talk to them about? Got you. I'm gonna save the full story for another day. But for me, 12 years old was a very defining age for myself. It's the first time I went to therapy, just because I had this whole thing of like, I guess you're angsty at 12, right? So like I was questioning my worth. I think I had told people I wanted to commit suicide to get attention. I can admit that now, years after. But since I said it, my teachers were like, we'll put you into therapy, and that experience plus everything else that came with that kind of helped shape me. That was a very interesting time. So if I was talking to my 12-year-old self, man, we'd have a lot to talk about. But yeah, for sure. And then my last question for you, man, the question that ties everything together: 100, 200, 300 years from now, your descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
I hope I did right by you. I hope I did right by, if I'm your great-great-great-great-grandfather, I hope I did right by your great-great-great-grandmother. I hope to God that the world's still halfway decent for you. This is crazy because I've got into the whole genealogy thing and just trying to think back to ancestors, and I've looked up and I've seen pictures of a great-great-grandfather. I guess I'll tell you, I don't know you. I don't know who you're gonna be. I love you. I hope the best for you. I hope that there, whatever piece of me that's in you, I hope that, it's that trying to be positive piece, that trying to, be kind piece. I don't know. This is the hardest question you've asked me the entire time.
You killing it, man. You killing it.
I wish you the best. And I hope that you put in the work for whoever's behind you.
Show, man.
Yeah.
Hey, anything else you'd want to add?
Don't invest in crypto, probably, but that's about it.
I got you. Man, by then, I don't know what crypto is going to be like. Could be the next, the thing after crypto we're going to be talking about, but we'll see.
Whatever they said that they're going to replace crypto with, don't invest in that. Or get out early if you do.
You got to get in early, and then by the time it's starting to sink, that's when you get out. Make your money and then bounce. But yeah, man. Any last things in general, like you want to tell people how to find your podcast? Go ahead, let them know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's Our Last Meal. If you want to go to the website, it's ourlastmeal.com. You can email me at ourlastmealpod@gmail.com. I'm always looking to talk to people. I try to be as respectful of your story as I can, but if you have a story of a loved one, even if you don't have the strongest memory tied to food, there might be something. But I just want to give you a chance. If you want to come on the show, talk about that relationship. It doesn't have to be death. It doesn't have to be a family member. But if you've got a relationship that you want to honor in some way, even if you just have complicated feelings and you want to try to talk through it, reach out. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at ourlastmealpod. But if I could give you one piece of advice, find somebody that you care about, go have a meal with them. Put your phone down, sit down, eat with them, talk with them, share some time with them.
And you better go do that. Want to thank you again for stopping by, Andrew. It was great just to reconnect, and great to have you on this side, where I'm the host and you're the guest. And before it was the other way around. So thank you again for sharing your story. I know there was a couple things that were pretty deep and are hard to talk about, but you pushed through it. So I definitely appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun. It was really it was nice to be introspective for an evening.
I'm glad, and maybe we'll get you back on. Maybe a few months, maybe a year from now. With my guests, I always have that invitation open because I think it's great to just check in every once in a while to see how things are going. Maybe a lot of new life changes, maybe not. But I definitely want to see how you're going to grow, man, from where you are today. So let's keep in touch. Yeah.
Definitely. I appreciate that.
Sure. For the folks out there, I want to thank you as well. If you've been watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're checking this out, definitely want to say thank you to everyone out there. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love, and we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. And it fades from there, man.